There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Legendary filmmaker Steven Spielberg has a big movie set to come out this summer called Disclosure Day. He's going to be revisiting his roots in this new science fiction endeavor, and apparently it's going to be about the world finding out about the truth, that we're not alone. But however, I just want to say this: disclosure has already happened, folks. We've already been there. We've already seen it. I'm starting to wonder, right? Actually, the evidence is out there now that shows there's no question about it that we are not alone. It's there for the whole world to see with their own eyes, right? And they could absorb that information and they could, take it from there. However, we're going to still play make believe, right? And that's fine. I'm sure that this movie is going to be fantastic. In fact, I can't wait to see it. I love Steven Spielberg movies ever since I was a little kid back in the 1970s. In fact, you know what the first movie I saw that Steven Spielberg directed was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. My dad had taken my brother Davey and me to see that movie. It was sometime in the first quarter of that movie was released late 1977, but by the time it got to the local movie theater where we used to go, the Capitol Theater in Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, it was a few months after it was initially released. But that's when I went to see that movie, and I thought it was fantastic. And then I guess it was a year or so, maybe the same year, I don't know, I saw Jaws for the first time when it premiered on HBO, and I couldn't believe how good that movie was. In fact, it's one of my favorite movies, top 3 actually. King Kong, Jaws, and I don't know, maybe Treasure of Sierra Madre. Might throw those in the top 3. I'm not even sure here. But the bottom line is Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a fantastic movie. And he's always been making great movies. I mean, growing up seeing Steven Spielberg movies, I can't tell you what that meant. Going to the movies when I was 12 years old in 1981 to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh my God, what a fantastic movie that was. And of course, that was a collaboration with George Lucas, who he worked on the story on that one. And then, of course, in 82, he had E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which was, one of the biggest money-making movies of all time. Actually, all of these movies we're talking about, all these movies that he's been making over the decades, a lot of them are box office champions. I mean, it's not just the Indiana Jones movies that he's made. It's not just E.T. the Extraterrestrial or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I mean, you have Jurassic Park. I mean, that was gigantic in 1993 when it came out. Schindler's List came out the same year. I always wondered, how could this guy come out with 2 giant big movies in the same year like that? But he did it. I mean, the guy's a fantastic filmmaker. The Color Purple. I mean, there was just so many good movies that this guy is responsible for. And even some of his lesser appraised movies, like what was it? The one with Tom Cruise, Minority Report. There was other movies that he's made. But now here we go. We're going to have a movie about Disclosure Day. And according, there's not much on the story yet, but you could see from the trailer. In fact, the other night, I saw the trailer again. I saw the trailer a couple of weeks ago, I guess, on the internet. But then I went to the movies the other day. My son wanted me to go see some movie called Iron Lung. So we went to this movie called Iron Lung, and they showed about 25 trailers before the movie started. And one of the previews was for Disclosure Day, and it looks very interesting, right? It looks like in one scene, it looks like there's a woman about to tell the truth to the world while she's giving a weather report, and there's all these eyeballs watching the news. I really can't tell what's going on. According to the internet here, it says it's a science fiction movie that follows a small group led by a character played by Josh O'Connor, who discovered definitive proof of extraterrestrial life. The plot centers on their struggle to reveal this truth to the world amid government suppression and widespread panic. I'm sure that this movie is going to be fantastic. Again, Spielberg is one of my favorite directors, one of my favorite movie makers. It's not just directing; he's been involved in so many different movies. He's produced a lot of great movies, I think, too, as well. A lot of movies that he had his fingers in, like for instance, the Back to the Future movies or Poltergeist. I mean, he helped make that original Poltergeist back in 1982. So many great things he's been involved in over the years. And I expect that this one will be just as thrilling as his other ones. I mean, he has made some flops throughout the years, like 1941. There was a comedy movie back from what year was that? 79. That was a big flop. So every now and then he does come out with movies that nobody likes. But for the most part, his movies are classics. And I would expect that this one's going to be a blockbuster. It's about aliens. I mean, how could he go wrong? Spielberg and aliens, how could you go wrong? And but the bottom line is this: we've already have disclosure. Everybody here on this planet at this juncture in time should know, right? There's no question at this point. Everyone should just know. I mean, it's the problem here is the mainstream news. It's the governments of the world, the top governments of the world, keeping this from the people. We all know it. A lot of us who study this know this, right? It's the disclosure. It's already here. Look at look what's going on in Congress. You know, whistleblowers testifying under oath about strange encounters with UFOs, about government programs to recover crashed UFOs and reverse engineer them. I mean, what else do we need at this point? And then on top of it all, as I've been talking about now for almost 2 years, even though the incident happened almost 3 years ago, but it wasn't until about 2 years ago, close to 2 years, where we have evidence that shows without any doubt whatsoever there's a non-human intelligent presence on this planet. And you know what I'm talking about there. That's the Las Vegas case. But you go back to the beginning. Go back to Kenneth Arnold back in 1947 when he reported seeing those 9 crescent-shaped objects flying at incredible speeds over Mount Rainier in Washington State. You start there, right? That's the beginning of disclosure. That guy wasn't lying. And then there was so many other witnesses that saw these UFOs during that period as well. Look at 1950, the McMinnville incident, the Trent. Paul and Evelyn Trent saw a UFO hovering near their house in Oregon, in McMinnville, Oregon. And they took a couple snapshots. Paul Trent took a couple snapshots of it. That's disclosure. That was featured in Life magazine. That story was featured in Life magazine at that time. There was the big UFO flap in 1952 where UFOs were flying over Washington, D.C., and there was nothing anybody could do about it. Our Air Force could do nothing about it. And then they come out and just say there's nothing to it. It could be a weather issue, a weather phenomenon. That's all it was. When everybody knows that it wasn't. And it just goes on like this. And you have the alien abductees stories all these years, starting with the Betty and Barney Hill, and even before that, if you want to talk about Antonio Villas-Boas. I mean, all these stories, and then all the people that have stepped forward in the decades after that, after the decades after Betty and Barney Hill went public with their story, and it was the subject of that book, The Interrupted Journey, back in the mid-1960s, and all the different people that have talked about being abducted by aliens over the decades, all the different books that have been written about this, all the research that's been conducted by numerous people all over the world, right, for decades now. There's something here, the cattle mutilations to this point which have not been explained. Right, we already have disclosure. It's just a matter of the mainstream news just sitting down and putting a presentation together and saying, "Yeah, guess what, folks? We're not alone. This shows it." There's just too much evidence at this point. The Turkey UFO videos from 2007, 2008, 2009. You have that Turkish guy, Yalçın Yalman, who over the numerous different nights, filming with a video recorder over the Sea of Marmara, capturing craft hovering out there with alien beings in them. And it was looked at by experts from multiple different countries, and they all came to the same conclusion that this is truly anomalous. We have no explanation to what's happening here. It's some phenomena we cannot explain. That's because they found no evidence of fraud or hoax or anything like that. It was real. And so what else could they say? Well, we can't explain it. It's a true phenomenon. What you see there is what was there. And you just keep going down the list. I mean, look at someone like Whitley Strieber, for instance. You know, when he wrote that book, Communion, that's disclosure. He's telling you what happened to him because it really did happen to him. I mean, he was getting abducted by aliens. That's what happened to him, and he wrote about it in Communion, and he continued to write books after it. He's still talking about it decades later. All of these things, they all constitute disclosure to me. All the people that have stepped up and talked about what they know about the Roswell UFO crash, starting from Jesse Marcel Sr., Jesse Marcel Jr., all the way to the Walter Haut, all those different people that were involved, all the military witnesses that stepped forward and had the guts to go against what the United States Pentagon was telling them. Don't say anything about this. This is top secret. After much time had passed, they finally start coming out of the woodwork and telling the truth about what happened. There's something crashed and there were alien bodies. And we've been getting lied to about all of this stuff by the government, by people in the Pentagon, a secret control group. That's all Majestic 12, whatever you want to call it, right? Somebody has been responsible for keeping this a secret, and not only in the United States, but in all different countries, all of our allies, right? And I'm sure within our enemy countries that the United States considers enemies, like China and Russia, they know about this. They're all keeping it a secret too. They're all trying to figure out how these things tick secretly just so they could use it against each other. That's what they're trying to do, right? But here's the bottom line is that we've already had disclosure. And you know how it was treated? It was treated like it was nothing. It was laughed at. Look at what just happened over the last year. The History Channel, 3 strikes, you're out. The History Channel, 3 different programs. The proof is out there. And then Ancient Aliens, and then finally the Dan Aykroyd's the Unbelievable with Dan Aykroyd program, right? All 3 of those programs talked about the Las Vegas alien incident of 2023, but they spend a total between all 3 of those episodes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes at best. It wasn't a lot. They didn't focus on that incident a lot. They poo-pooed it. They didn't talk about all of the evidence associated with that case. When Scott Roeder, the crime scene reconstruction expert, sat down with me 2 years ago, it was April 2nd of 2024, when he was able to determine that what we see in this 1 minute and 41 second long cell phone footage that was filmed, that was captured by the Kenmore family during the early morning hours of May 1st, 2023, he confirmed, he authenticated that video, and what we see in the video were aliens. What happened was some sort of an object came out of the sky, made a hard landing in the backyard of this family's backyard in Vegas. Alien creatures exited that craft, and they were captured on video by these people, who then called 911 up because they didn't know what to do. The cops showed up an hour later. The cops saw that these people were totally rattled, right? It was a big story for a few months there, and then it died down a little bit, and then it picked up a little bit when Scott Roeder made his announcement on April 2nd, 2024, that this really happened. Him and his team were able to confirm that there was something that actually happened there that involved non-human intelligent beings, that those people were not lying. But you know what? And there were some news channels out there and mainstream news outlets like News Nation. They covered a little bit, but they never got into it deeply. It was just a little 5-minute, 10-minute segment here, another 10-minute, 5-minute segment there, and then they just let it go. They don't make a big deal out of it. Nobody else, even though they were alerted to it, the New York Times was told about this recently. They're not doing anything with it. I've actually contacted the Pentagon and the Department of Energy. They never responded to any of the messages that I sent to them 2 years ago now, almost. Well, let's see, what was it, 2024? Yeah, almost 2 years ago, year and a half ago. Who else was? I told the UAP caucus knows about this. They've done nothing with it. Nobody wants to talk about it because they know what it means. Fox News Digital was the only outlet that really took it seriously for a little while during the summer of 2024. But once the Pentagon got contacted, then they backed away somewhat. They don't want to talk about it. But here's the bottom line, folks. We have already, if you want to know whether or not we're alone or not, just look at what happened with the Las Vegas case. I've done, I don't know how many shows about this over the past couple of years, but a lot. I lost count, right? Last I think I counted was maybe 50, 60, 70. I don't even know. I talk about it a lot on here because I know what it means. I know that there's no wiggling out of this one. Debunkers won't even try to debunk it because they know they can't. The best we got was from Mick West, right? Who said he thought it could be raccoons or coyotes. And when you clearly see, when you watch that video, it's not coyotes or raccoons. That's insanity. That's a blatant lie. That's blatant gaslighting. See, here's the thing, folks. We already have the proof. It's already out there, right? Disclosure already happened. If you're interested, right, it's there for the taking. It's always been there. You don't even need to look at that case. Just look at the history of this. Get some books by Richard Dolan, who a historian who's been writing about this in books like UFOs and the National Security State, right? Volume 1 and Volume 2. Read those books, right? See how the government's been keeping this a secret for all these years. Check out Preston Dennett's YouTube channel, or read some of Preston Dennett's books about all the different kinds of crazy encounters people have reported over the years with UFOs, aliens, abductions, all kinds of stuff, right? All of these people aren't lying, right? Look at all the cases that MUFON has been investigating over the decades. It's unbelievable, folks. The amount of evidence that we have at this point makes it clear that we're not alone. So we're going to have a movie here, which I'm excited to see. I really think it's going to be fantastic. How could it not be? Steven Spielberg's involved in it, right? I mean, I think he's one of the best, if not the best of all time. One of the best directors we'll ever get to see in this existence, right? And that movie, I'm sure, will be very exciting, just like a lot of his other movies have been. But the bottom line is, we've already had disclosure. We've been getting disclosure every day since 1947. If you can't see it by this point, especially by this point, right, then there's something wrong with you. Then you're walking around with blinders on. You just don't want to accept it. You want, I don't know. I don't know how it would, apparently Disclosure Day the movie's going to be about a way to, let all 7 billion people on this planet find out all at the same time that we're not alone. Everybody should know this already. We've had the evidence is there for anyone who wants to take a look at it. There's no question there's a non-human intelligent presence here. Whether they're extraterrestrial or not, that's up for debate. Who knows? I think that's what they probably are. But the bottom line is, it's still up for debate. Maybe it's something from here. Maybe they're from another dimension. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Where's the scientific community at? That's the other thing. Where are they at? There's some guys that have been stepping up over the decades, right? But for the most part, most of the scientific community just stays away from this. They don't want to go near it because they don't even know what to say about it. It's like it's such a you have a responsibility. If you're a scientist, you have a responsibility to look into these things and take them seriously, especially at this point when you have evidence that shows unequivocally that we are not alone at this point. There's no question about it. You look at that Las Vegas evidence, there's no getting around it anymore. Right? There's just no getting around it. I mean, the object came down from the sky. People were saying it was a meteor. No, it couldn't have been a meteor. It didn't have a heat signature. It was filmed under long wave infrared and it showed no heat signature. If it was a meteor, there would have been a heat signature. It also made some sort of an oscillating sound as it came down from the sky, right? And from one viewpoint of that thing when it was falling from the sky, it looked like there were two objects, not just one. There was a big one and a little one right beside of it, depending on the angle that you were looking at it from. Something weird happened during that just before midnight, April 30th, 2023, May 1st, and then just after midnight, May 1st, 2023. Something landed in a family's backyard in Las Vegas, and it was like a hard landing, whatever it was. We don't know what kind of object it was, but it became invisible upon impact. That's what we do know. And then the next thing the witnesses said, they heard what sounded like thousands of footsteps. They told the cops that they saw 2 8 to 10 foot tall alien beings in their backyard. Right? They were serious about this. They were serious about it. Right? And then when we examined that video, that 1 minute and 41 second long video, filmed in portrait style, no less, I found at least at least 20 different times, more than 20 times you see aliens in that video. There's no denying it anymore. The evidence is there for anyone to see it. So Disclosure Day, yeah, it's going to be a fantasy. It's a made-up story. Steven Spielberg came up with it himself, and he had some other guy write the screenplay for it. I'm sure it's going to be great. But guess what, folks? We've already had Disclosure Day. It's over. Like Scott Roeder and I were talking about. It's just up to the rest of the world to get onto this, to latch onto this evidence. It's over. It's been over for almost 2 years now. But I just wanted to point that out. I do look forward to seeing this movie. However, at the same time, we've already had disclosure, folks. We've been getting it for decades now. And if you can't see the truth by this point, then there's something wrong with you. Anyway, moving on. I want to get caught up on the recent Spotify polls. And we're going to start with the episode. For the episode, The Weird Creatures U.S. Marines vet Marvin Jacobs saw on a UFO when he was 9 years old. I asked this question: are these beings trying to tell us to get a grip? Now, of course, if you remember that episode, that was a sequel to the first part where I had an interview with Marvin Jacobs. He's a retired Marine Corps vet, and he had multiple experiences throughout his life. And in one instance, he was brought on board of a craft in 1986, and he was shown images of the end of the world. Basically, the United States was getting attacked by NATO allies, including Germany, apparently. And the next thing you know, it was the end of the world. And he was shown this, and without any comment from the aliens whatsoever. And then that was it. And he thought it was silly all these years. But now, with the way things are in the world, he's starting to wonder if maybe what he was shown back then was a glimpse of the future. And that's what we're asked. That's what this question was about. Are these beings trying to tell us to get a grip? Okay, 33 votes so far with 3 days left only. Okay, 8 people or 24.2% say no, while 25 people or 75.8% say yes. I agree with the majority with the yeses. I think that they are trying to tell us to get a grip. I think they've been trying to tell us to get a grip for a long time now. I don't know what their ultimate agenda entails, whether it is taking over the world or whatever, but at the same time, it seems like they have been concerned about particularly our nuclear weapons. That's what they seem to have a concern about. They've been seeing it a lot of our nuclear missile silos. They shut missiles down, they activate them, and then, it's almost like they're trying to give us a message. So I do think that they are trying to tell us to get a grip. All right, for the episode, maybe they're looking for a fight. And then with that episode, that was about, I wondered whether I put out the hypothesis that maybe the extraterrestrial non-human intelligent presence here is just looking to get into a fight with us. But right now we're so stupid that we were just incapable of putting up a good fight. Maybe that's what it is. And I came up with a new theory called the deferred adversarial contact theory. And basically they're trying to get us to a point. They want us to get to a point where we're able to fight back, and put up a fight. That was the idea behind that episode. And I asked this question: do you consider the deferred adversarial contact theory as a legitimate possibility? All right, 28 votes so far with 5 days left. 10 people or 35.7% say yes, while the majority, 18 people or 64.3% say no. Yeah, where do I stand now? It was my idea, so where do I stand on it? I'd say yes. I don't know what the hell. I think anything's a possibility. I don't know we don't know much about these things at all, really, when it comes down to it, right? So yeah, I'll say, yeah, it's a legitimate possibility. Why not? I'm going to go with the minority on this one. All right, for the episode, Scott Roeder debunks Miami Mall alien incident, discusses other major UFO cases. I asked this question: do you agree with Roeder's assessment on the Miami Mall alien incident? Of course, in that episode, Roeder said he just looked at all of the evidence that was out there on this case, and there's just not enough there to say that it really happened. So let's see, 25 votes so far with 10 days left. Okay, 8 people or 32% say no, while the majority, 17 people or 68% say yes. I agree with the majority. I haven't seen enough evidence with that case. I mean, I'm not saying it's a done deal, but at this point, there's just not enough there. There's just not enough there. So I'm saying I don't think it's at this point. I say no. There's nothing to it. All right, for the episode, interview: woman videoed possible NHI on cell phone after bizarre teleportation event. Now, of course, this was involving a woman from California named Street Capture, who back in 2018, her and her former partner, Kel, these are all pseudonyms, they had some missing time. They had a teleportation incident, and also they also encountered some aliens at her grandmother's house. But anyway, for that episode, I asked this question: were Street Capture and Kel teleported by aliens that night in 2018? 23 votes so far with 12 days left. Okay, 9 people or 39.1% say no, while 14 people or 60.9% say yes. I go with the majority. I think that, yes, they were teleported for reasons unknown. If you haven't seen that interview, I suggest you check it out, because I thought that Street Capture was very compelling, and she provided a very detailed story, and we went over it. We tried to cover every aspect of what happened to her, and I think what she said happened. And then she also had some evidence what might be aliens that she captured on her cell phone in her grandmother's backyard on top of it. So yes, I do believe that something very strange and happened to them, and it looks like they were teleported somehow that night. All right, for the episode, we best heed alien warnings of destruction or we might face Armageddon. I ask this question: should we take the alien message of world destruction seriously? Okay, now this is, of course, in follow-up to some of the stuff we've been talking about on the show recently, including the remarks by Marvin Jacobs about what he was shown. He was shown that the end of the world is going to be coming, apparently, unless we do something to stop it. So what are people saying? Should we take that message seriously? 34 votes so far, with 13 days left. Okay, 6 people, or 17.6%, say no, while the majority, 28 people, or 82.4%, say yes. We cannot afford to not take it seriously. That's where I stand at it. I know. Here's the thing. I know some things here. I've encountered one of these beings myself, and I saw one of their craft up close and personal on another occasion. So I know that there's something here. So yes, if they're giving us some message about destruction, I think we need to take it seriously. Because yeah, they might be lying, but maybe they're not. We need to take it seriously. We can't afford not to. It'd be stupid. We'd be stupid not to take it seriously. How about that? So yeah, of course I agree with the majority. All right, for the episode, alien hybrids might be controlling the narrative. I asked this question for this episode. If there are alien hybrids living among us, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Okay, 32 votes so far with 14 days left. Wow, this one was pretty close. Okay, 14 people, or 43.8%, say it was a good thing, while the majority, 18 people, or 56.3%, say it was a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing. Yes, I think that's, why would you do that unless you're up to no good? Okay. If you have to put secret spies in, and sprinkle them out throughout the human race, that has to be a bad thing. That means you're keeping something from us. So yes, I agree with the majority. Again, it's a bad thing. All right, moving right along. For the episode interview, Colorado man plagued by UFO/NHI encounters throughout his entire life. Okay, this was another guest I had on the show recently, Bill Rathbun, and he talked about all the strange encounters that he's had throughout his life, and it was very, very interesting. If you haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend it. And anyway, I asked this question: have you dealt with encounters with UFOs and NHI throughout your entire life? Okay, there's 33 votes so far with 18 days left. Okay, 12 people, or 36.4%, say yes, while the majority, 21 people, or 63.6%, say no. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good number. I mean, 36% saying yes. There's a lot of people out there who have encountered these beings throughout their entire lives, and I would have to say that I'm one of them, because I had things that happened to me throughout my entire life. Now, I haven't had really a lot of stuff happening recently. There was one little thing, but I'm not even sure about it. But for the most part, I've had some major things happening, and they were spread apart by many years. There was the incident when I was a kid back in 1977. Then there was another incident in the mid-1990s where they saw the UFO. And then there was another incident when I was in Hawaii back in 2017 where I had a very strange experience where one of my dogs went missing under very strange circumstances. I will get into these stories in a different episode. I've talked about them many times before, but I do plan on bringing them up again in a different episode. Because I think it's important to. There's other ways of looking at these things sometimes, and I want to talk about them again at a future episode. But yeah, I'd have to go with. I'd be one of the yeses, because I did have a lot of things going on throughout my life, multiple different events. All right. For the episode, giant lobster-like alien tries to abduct teenage girl. Also, 2018 Oregon backyard ETs update. For that episode, I asked this question: if the 1977 lobster creature story is true, what sort of entity was it? Of course, in that episode, we were talking about this alleged incident that happened in 1977, where this creature came through a portal somehow into this teenage girl's bedroom, and she woke up. And she was getting dragged through this portal by some kind of a lobster kind of creature or something, right? And had a pincer on one of her arms and was trying to drag her in. And then she fell backward. She broke loose and fell backward on the floor. When she woke up the next day, she was covered with bruises. So if the story is true, what sort of entity was it? That was the question. 20 votes so far with 21 days left. All right. 0 people say it was a spiritual being. 1 person or 5% say other. Another 1 person or 5% say it was ultra-terrestrial. 3 people or 15% say it was an earthly cryptid. Another 3 people or 15% say it was extraterrestrial. 4 people or 20% say it was interdimensional. And the majority, 8 people or 40% say it was an imaginary being. So it was all in her imagination. Where do I go with this one? Because I know strange things do happen to people, I'm not going to go with the majority. Most people thought, okay, most people thinks it was something, because if you take the interdimensional, the ultra-terrestrial, the extraterrestrial, and the earthly cryptid all together, that's more than 8, right? That's 11. So I'm going to go with, what one am I going to go with? I'm going to say, I'm just going to go with extraterrestrial for the fun of it, right? I think that's a funny thought. Lobster aliens operating spacecraft. Imagine. Anything's possible, folks. Anything. Especially when you have evidence of something weird going on here, right? Anything's possible is my mind at this point. Anything. Nothing's off the table. It wouldn't surprise me if a race of intelligent dogs and cats showed up in spaceships at this point. Seriously, why not? Anything's possible. All right, for the episode, alien robots with heads resembling flowers startle child in Florida schoolyard. Okay, for that episode, I asked this question. Are the robots people sometimes encounter related to the gray, insectoid, and reptilian aliens witnessed in most alien abduction accounts? Okay, so of course that was an episode, right? Not only was I talking about these robots that looked like had flower heads with flower petals on their head, but there was other robot cases. And are they connected to the grays, the reptilians, and the insectoids, and the whole gang that's responsible for the abductions? Are they connected? Okay, 20 votes so far. Okay, 5 people or 25% say no. 15 people or 75% say yes. I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. Yeah, I think these robots are connected to the whole thing here. I don't know what their purpose is, but yeah, I'm going to go with yes. So here's the thing is, we know that there's something here because we have the evidence, right? It's up, if you don't want to believe the truth, right, that's fine. There's a lot of people out there who live in fantasy worlds. That's great, right? But the bottom line is, the world should know by this point, folks. We've already had disclosure. We have enough evidence at this point to show the world that we're not alone, right? And it's up to the mainstream news. It's up to the politicians we have in office. It's up to those people because they're the ones in power, right? They have the ability to reach to a lot more people than some small little podcast like this and a bunch of there's another bunch of other guys out there too telling you the same kinds of stuff. Yeah, we've already had disclosure. It's up to the people out there who have the power to show this, to share this information, to do their jobs already. Because there is something here with us, whether you like it or not. Sorry. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.